because your child is your whole world. You don't need to worry a single thing about what anybody else is saying about autism. Its level, its severity, what's causing it. Focus fully. And you do this anyways. I'm just giving you one more vote of confidence. Pour everything you've got into your whole world. Your child. Welcome to the Experience Miracles podcast, where we help parents find hope, answers, and drug-free help to overcome your child's chronic health challenges. I'm your host, Dr. Tony Ebel, and I'll be sharing my experiences as both a dad and a doctor on every episode. I can take the latest science and neurology of healing and break it down in the most simple and relatable way possible. We'll take on the toughest topics and answer your biggest questions through interviews with other amazing parents and leading experts, leaving you with practical action steps that you can take to help your child heal and thrive. It's time to expect and experience miracles. Let's get started. All right, everybody, let's talk autism. Not just level 1 autism, not just level 2 autism, and we're also not only going to talk about level 3 autism, which is severe, which absolutely does get into lives of kids and families and wreak havoc. It absolutely creates unthinkable, unfathomable challenges when a child is struggling with level 3 autism, and there is millions of kids with this autism diagnosis struggling at that level. So we will be talking about level 3 autism. Those are the kids that really need us to talk about autism. But every child with autism deserves this conversation, deserves a deeper dive and investigation into the science as to what's causing it, what is really going on with it. And so I'm recording this in the month of April. And so this is Autism Awareness Month. And after dedicating the last 2 decades of my life to not just pediatric care and neurodevelopment, but very specifically, my specialty has been autism. My heart, my soul, my nerdy brain and head have all been dedicated to this. And so this is a conversation and a neuroscientific investigation that I know very well. And I don't like to talk about myself, but I know this at a level, at a depth, at a real life experience and a clinical experience. So actually serving kids with autism, not just reading research, not just talking to people about this, not just being involved in politics or research. No, serving in clinic, thousands of cases, and really being immersed in families struggling with all 3 levels of autism. And we'll talk about the differences in that level of struggle, because there is, and those are important. And each of these 3 categories of kiddos deserves more conversation. They deserve and need more support, more love, more compassion, and more truth. And so we're going to do that with this episode here. But I pay attention every April as to Autism Awareness Month. And honestly, I got to say that this one, it has been so much more of a conversation. It is way all over traditional media. It is way all over social media. And my first inclination to tell you that I feel in my heart and soul is to just say this, and we'll get into more of it. About time that it ruffles some feathers, about time that it gets some debate and conversation going, because our kids have been struggling level 1, level 2, and level 3 for 2 to 3 generations. This perfect storm has been brewing. And by the way, that's the key. It's really only been brewing at this level quantity and at this level severity, level 3, for the last generation or 2, maybe 3. So no, it's not genetic, because it didn't even get a diagnosis until 1950. And when we look at this and you just look at the reality of the scientific reality, plus you infuse some common sense, no, we're not just diagnosing it better. No, it's not just genetics, because if anybody knows anything about true genetic conditions, you can find them on a deep dive genetic. It's not, so you're just, when they do genetic studies with autism, my goodness, they are splitting hairs and throwing darts to try and defend their position that, oh, we've just missed it this whole time and we're just diagnosing it better. And that is if you find a doctor right now in April who is going on Instagram and saying, well, yeah, of course the numbers are going up. We're looking for it more and we're diagnosing it more. You got to immediately distrust that doctor, because they have a horrendous understanding of actually even how genetics work, because it takes hundreds, if not thousands of years for our genetics to change enough for a disease to explode at this level quantity and explode at this level severity. This is an environmental problem almost in its entirety. Now, there is pre-genetic disposition. There is absolutely genetics involved. The perfect storm is a multifactorial conversation about autism, and that is real. We can't just throw genetics, baby, out with the bathwater either. But to blame that only, goodness gracious, like we've got to be done with those doctors and that system. And I know who I'm preaching and teaching to the audience here. As parents who truly have children struggling with autism, you know that you've run into nothing but dead ends and denials in the medical system. You know that the pediatrician just punted it and said, don't worry, they'll grow out of it, when you knew something was wrong the whole time. Then you went to the neurologist. They didn't have any tests for it, but they just had an aggregate of symptoms, and they gave you, okay, and we're going to cover this, DSM levels of level 1, level 2, level 3, and they said, here's yours. Continue with the traditional therapies, ABA, and if it gets bad enough, we'll put them on medication. So you're done with them. You know that you've run into a dead end. They still blame genetics and bad luck, so they can't help you get to the root cause. They can't help you to get your child to actually heal and get better and vastly improve their quality of life on their own. But we can. And so I'm so excited that this conversation is happening here this April at a much higher level. I know this one probably won't come out till May around our Autism Summit, because we don't just love having a discussion about autism. We're not really that into awareness, if I'm being honest. We are fully, ridiculously freaking obsessed with action and implementation and actually getting to work and helping families. So this isn't a debate. This isn't a discussion. This is a deep dive scientific investigation into the 3 levels of autism, what's causing them, what's really going on with the neurophysiological dysregulation and dysfunction at different, what we would call patterns and levels within each level, and then what you can do to help your child and what it would look like to hopefully, potentially see some incredible healing and results for your child. And now, before I dig in, I've got one important disclaimer. To limit this conversation of autism to 3 levels is impossible. Okay, this is just going to give us a framework. This is just going to give us I hope to not just stay at the 30,000 foot view of autism with this episode, but I can actually get down beyond the 10,000 to kind of use this airplane analogy, because each and every child, period, but especially with autism, is entirely different. So yes, these categories and these different patterns or boxes kind of help, okay? They help us as parents to know what we're up against and where we're at. They help us as providers to know what we're up against and what the child is struggling with. There is some utility to a diagnosis. There's also some utility to a diagnosis with school and early intervention and getting supports that our children need, okay? So there's value in a certain lens and a certain perspective to the diagnosis, but there's also danger to it. And here's the danger that I see happening all over Instagram and Facebook. Many families are thriving because they're so supportive and they've done so many amazing things for their child with mild or level 1 autism. Back in the day when I first got started, it would have been called Asperger's. I'm not here to really get hung up on what it's called. We're here to say, okay, well, what do those kids struggle with? And we'll get into that here in just a second. And then in the same way, we want to celebrate how many kids with autism, how many people with ADHD and sensory challenges. Again, we could fill this perception right here. I want you to know that we carry this philosophy, this paradigm, and this perspective with every child of every condition, whether it's truly genetic or it's predominantly environmental and perfect storm related like autism. We don't get hung up on their diagnosis. We don't see them. Oh, there's that autism level 1 kid. Oh, there's that autism level 3 kid. No, we see them as Evan, as Joseph, as Audrey, as Owen, okay? We see them who they are, as Ethan. At the end of this one, I want you to really stay through it. I'm going to finish with a couple of real, true autism recovery miracle stories, okay? Now, these are not case studies. These are not anecdotes only. It's real neurophysiological healing that happened for these kiddos. So each and every child that fully recovers from autism should not be seen as an anecdote. They should be seen as something to study entirely, obsessively. And that's what we're going to do. I'm going to share those kids' stories at the end because they fit the science and the 3-level deep dive of autism that we're going to do here. So I want every parent listening to know this. If your child is level 1, quote unquote, by the DSM book, autism, they probably have some challenges with clumsiness, a little bit of social awkwardness, some processing and integrating sensory challenges, maybe some anxiety and social challenges and communication difficulties that show up. And I bet if we could just clear out all the other noise from all the other people who think they know what your child and your family are going through, but don't, if we could clear out all that other noise, I bet you would probably say, hey, if we could lessen this challenge over here a little bit, that'd help them. If we could lessen this challenge over here a little bit, that would help her. So I want level 1 families, if that is your family story, I want you to level in and know, hey, you better believe it, your child can thrive. Because we've also got a ton of stories that we can share about Janine and about Shelby and about, goodness gracious, another Ethan, that I can tell you that I've been able to help early on in my career, who have now graduated from college, are rocking full-time jobs, and even starting families. And a few of them have gone on to chiropractic school, and they serve alongside of us. And yes, if you send them into a neuropsychiatrist's office, they could come out of said office with a level 1 diagnosis. Okay. What does that do for them? I don't know. In fact, when you get into the conversation in a different perspective, it could do not good things for them. So we know absolutely positively they have full ability to thrive. And the supports and the interventions we're going to talk about are not to change them. It's not to say they're broken or something is wrong. The supports and interventions we're going to talk about for all 3 levels are to say these are here to serve you. These are here to help you. These are here to optimize your quality of life by optimizing the function of your nervous system. That's it. What I just said there in those couple of sentences, that's the conversation spread across all 3 levels for this entire episode and everything we do. And so I want everybody to know where we're coming from. And unfortunately, we live in this social media fear, incite riots at all times driven world where it's like, let's cut this snippet out and say, oh, he said they're destroying families. He very clearly demarcated first that it's level 3 severe autism, 25% that are really having their quality of life. And so I know those families. We serve those families as well. So I know I'm being redundant, but I need to on this one, saying to you, no matter where you land on this spectrum of autism with your child's challenges, we are here to serve you up a full complement of hope, answers, and drug-free quality of life exploding interventions and help. So truth is, let's get into it. Level 1. Now, these kiddos require support. Now, let's not judge the level of support that they require compared to a child who doesn't have an autism diagnosis or sensory challenges. And let's not judge this level 1 compared to level 2 or level 3 either. Let's just stay here for a few minutes and say, you know what? Our level 1 autism kiddos are typically verbal, but they may struggle with some of this social connectiveness and social communication and reading cues. So they may very much benefit from some social communication classes. One of our best friends and fiercest advocates and a mom of one of the first kids that I served, Kevin, who's now thriving in his adulthood. And I'm getting old, so he's getting even older because he was pretty old, 17 or 18 when I got started. And so Mary teaches these social communication and social support classes for kids with these levels of autism and anxiety and challenges. And it can be so impactful, especially when those kids are getting adjusted and having their nervous system regulated and balanced again. So they may have some mild sensory challenges as well. Certain noises, textures, crowds, clothes, they can challenge them, okay? They probably have some subtle motor coordination and motor planning challenges. They may not be the kids who love playing sports that require a lot of hand-eye coordination or doing those sort of things, kids or adults now, if that's where they are. And so they may appear clumsy. There's definitely levels of anxiety, digestive challenges, poor sleep due to the vagal nerve imbalance that is involved with level 1 autism. And they may also have some immune challenges because when you have nervous system stress and dysregulation, it can mess with inflammation and your immune system function. So they may get sick more often and deal with allergies and asthma that then when they take medications for allergies and asthma, which are corticosteroids, may actually ramp up their exhaustion and their anxiety. So these are some subtle, simple, everybody talks about these all the time like they're normal. Oh, it's okay to, just have these sensory challenges, sleep challenges, motor coordination challenges, digestive challenges, anxiety challenges, immune system challenges, allergies, asthma, and need to take these medications all the time. We've just accepted this and said, yeah, right? Have we asked the kiddos? Have we asked the adults who are struggling with this and said, hey, in a vacuum, just you, focused on your health and your quality of life, would you like help with that stuff? I've never met a kiddo or met a family who said, know to help at level 1 autism, okay? It's just how it is, where transitions and these things can be hard, but we can make it better. And this diagnosis of autism, anxiety, sensory, this investigation of parents really putting together, actually it was a stressful pregnancy, there was birth trauma, they were sick a lot as a baby, they did have some constipation and ear infections and a lot of antibiotics and some skin reactions and some reactions maybe to other interventions. So there is the same perfect storm causative pathway for level 1 autism, but often it wasn't just as severe as the things we're going to talk about next with level 2 and level 3. Now, I want to go into with each 3 level, and we'll do it within the level. I want to go into what we find when we do our exams and our scans. So in the work we do, we run what are called neurological insight scans. We can actually find, measure, quantify, and locate levels of nervous system dysfunction, dysregulation, incoordination, disconnection, or the catch-all term, which really every family with autism needs to be super familiar with these terms, not only nervous system dysregulation, but one called dysautonomia, another one called subluxation, and then a conversation around vagus nerve dysfunction, which is something I'm going to teach an entire class on at the summit that is upcoming shortly after this episode releases. And if you're listening to this after our May Autism Summit, you can get the recordings, you can get that on replay. Just reach out to us on DM or on our website, pxdocs.com, or DM us on either of our social, and we'll send you the connection to the replay. And I did an entire keynote deep dive into vagus nerve dysfunction. And level 1 autism kids have too much sympathetic stress. They have too little vagal nerve tone. So when we run our thermal and our EMG scans, we see some mild to moderate inflammation, tension, sympathetic dominance. We see within their neuromuscular and their sensory motor system, we see some patterns of what are called asymmetry and incoordination. We see that their posture, so EM, the M stands for myo, that's the neuromuscular tone. We're running scans on the paraspinal system and the neurospinal system. So we see tension in their neck and shoulders that can contribute to anxiety and sleep challenges. We see weakness in their core, which can contribute to poor posture. We see imbalances in their lumbopelvic and their sacral system, which can lead to motor planning and gait challenges and kind of having that clumsy shuffling sort of posture. And so we see these patterns of nerve interference on our insight scans with level 1 autism. And then on HRV, heart rate variability, which is the best measurement of nervous system dysregulation and dysautonomia out there. And the root of autism, all 3 levels, is nervous system dysregulation and dysautonomia. So we see HRVs that are moderately sympathetic dominant, vagal tone, exhausted, and a lot of times just a little tired, right? Because these kiddos do struggle with these social anxieties. They do struggle with motor planning. They do often struggle with sleep and these sort of things. And I always say kiddos because I'm a pediatric doctor, but these young adults, these patients struggle with these things, and that can be exhausting over time. And so this is where HRV shows that they're tired. So what does our care focus look like? So I want to go into the challenges of each level. I want to go into the patterns and the findings we see on our insight scans. And I know I just have to verbally describe them. They're very visual. They come with colors and patterns and metrics. So the scans are really easy to interpret once you see them in person for your child or young adult or yourself. But today, obviously doing an autism podcast episode, I've got to just visually describe them. And then I want to get into the care focus. What does it look like to get results and really help a child with level 1 autism? Well, it typically takes us about 90 days, so 3 to 6 months, to start to see changes with neurologically focused chiropractic care. Now, even within the first 30 days and 6 weeks, we often have children and young adults with level 1 autism who say, you know what? I'm sleeping better. I physically feel less tension. I feel and experience less anxiety. My sensory challenges aren't so peaked and hypersensitive. I can handle transitions and social interactions much better. Parents will report they're more communicative, they're more joyful, they're more engaged in conversation and in life. And so it takes us about 3 to 6 months, often at a visit frequency of 2 to 3 times a week, because that's kind of the dosage with which neurologically focused or neurotonal chiropractic work that PX doctors do. That's what it takes to really, in a major, amazing, awesome, celebrate the heck out of this way, really improve the quality of life of a child or young adult or person with level 1 autism. So absolutely, positively, are you kidding? Do we accept level 1 autism as awesome? Do we accept level 2 and level 3? I can't even tell you that people like us who want to talk about the root cause of autism and what's really causing the struggles for these kiddos, you are going to find that we are the most accepting ever. You can accept these kids and these adults and these patients and say, hey, I absolutely see you. We have nothing but compassion and empathy for you. And you can continue that emotion and that thought and say, and we can help you. We can optimize the function of your nervous system, which will improve quality of life. To what degree? We don't know until we get going and get started. Does that mean it's a treatment for your autism because something is broken and we need to get it out of there? No, that's the medical theory of things. Does it mean that there is damage? No, it means that the nervous system went through the perfect storm and it has stress and it has dysfunction, it has dysregulation. We can help with that. There's no treatment, there's no cure. That's not how this works. And so we can accept it. We become aware of it, and we can take action to serve these kids and families and patients as well. So as I shift from level 1 to level 2, I need to come back to the main thesis of this episode and say that one more time. So level 2, they require substantial support. Okay. And again, this is a hard episode to do because I don't even want to limit this to 3 levels because I've probably said this a bunch of times on the podcast if you listen all the time. This is the hardest job I do, getting into these conversations with you amazing parents and providers via the podcast, because as much as I probably go deeper and more, granular than anybody else that talks about this stuff, I try to anyways. It's my hope to serve you guys in that way. I also struggle with it because I'm not trained to generalize this conversation. The way we work as neurologically-focused chiropractors differently and at a level that no other doctors do is we individualize and personalize our care. So I hope I'm doing your family a service here by getting a bit more into the weeds with level 1, level 2, and level 3. I just want you to know when you see us or you see a PX doctor, you will get nothing but individualized, personalized conversations. So this stuff we're talking about here relates, but man, we can do even more to sit down knee to knee, heart to heart, and we put our listening ears on and we say, hey, tell me what you're struggling with. Tell me what your goals are for your child, and let's build a plan together in partnership with nothing but personalization for your child's nervous system needs and get to work on that. So thank you for allowing me to sneak that in one more time as I segue into level 2, because I want to teach in this one the premises, the paradigm, if you will, and the foundations of how we approach helping your family that I feel are now needed more than ever and different than anybody else. Okay. So level 2, autism requires substantial support. There is much more obvious physical, social, sensory, communication challenges. Their gut is a mess. Their immune system is a mess. There's a lot of reflux, constipation, eczema, frequent illnesses. They have strong sensitivity to lights and sounds and textures, and their motor planning, motor tone is a mess. Man, I'm about to launch another episode here, a deep dive into the sensory motor system. We're trying to really sort out how to title it right so that parents can figure out, man, I was told by the pediatrician and neurologist that my child's autism is coming from genetics. And then I just did a little bit of research on my own, Google, ChatGPT, and Perplexity. And I was like, huh? No way. That's not the whole story. And if that's the conclusion you came to, you're right, mom and dad. They're not telling the truth. And then you get into the holistic, functional, nutritional world and you go, oh, it's all in the gut. Autism, this neuroinflammation, this gut-brain connection, serotonin, dopamine, it's all in the gut. The gut's a big deal here. The gut and the microbiome. But if I can teach you something in this too, autism, sensory challenges, anxiety, even ADHD, and all challenges related to neurodysregulation are stuck in the physical body first, what would be called the somatic or the sensory motor system. So that's why birth trauma and different things with tech and posture and gross motor delays and sensory motor challenges are such a big deal. And level 2 autism kids really struggle with their motor tone. They have some muscles that are full of tension, like their traps and their shoulders and their jaw. They'll be teeth grinders. They'll have tons of tension in their neck and shoulders. As they get older, they'll probably even complain of neck and mid-back problems and maybe even low back issues. So they have tons of tension in their neurospinal system in certain regions, and then they have tons of weakness. Some muscles are just super exhausted and low tone. So low tone is a big conversation here. Hypotonia is a big conversation here. Gross motor, fine motor, sensory motor delays, speech challenges, sensory oral challenges, difficulty with changing environments and making transitions. Those are some of the main challenges at a really pretty significant degree that level 2 autism level level 2 autism patients struggle with. So what do we see on scans? The same thing we see on level 1, but more, but worse. I'm a glasses half full guy if there ever was one, so it's hard for me to say things like significant, severe, and worse, but that's what we see on level 2 scans. We see a lot of neuroinflammation, dysregulation, asymmetry, tension, incoordination on the thermal and the EMG scans, and then on EMG and on HRV. And if you want to see these scans visually, go to our website. Actually, go to the show notes. We'll put a link to the Insight Scans article on here and a bunch of the other case studies that show the scans too. We see a lot of tension, sympathetic dominance, and incoordination and confusion on these kids' scans, but we also really see a lot of exhaustion, especially if your level 2 autism child is now grade school, junior high, high school, young adult. You can only be on this sympathetic fight or flight overdrive, so stuck on the gas pedal for so long before you run out of gas and you become neurologically exhausted. That's when they really start to withdraw. That's why autism isn't a static place. A lot of kiddos start with the early signs of autism, colic, hyperactivity, impulsivity, sensory meltdowns as a toddler and preschooler. And then they're told, oh, don't worry, they'll grow out of that. It's just hyperactivity. They're just a little boy. It's the terrible 2s. It's the terrible 3s. They miss some milestones. They do all these things. It's all normalized. They don't grow out of it. They keep growing into more severe dysregulation, subluxation, sympathetic dominance, dysautonomia, vagus nerve dysfunction, a bunch of terms that are very closely related to this conversation and closely related to each other. So on level 2 autism, we see a lot of exhaustion in their nervous system, a lot of tension and sympathetic dominance, a lot of confusion and dysregulation and incoordination. And then that adds up to, over time, especially if your kiddo is getting older, to exhaustion, which is something that then when we go to adjust, we need to handle that exhaustion and that dysregulation first before we can even get to the tension and the sensory wound up and the anxiety. And so in these cases, we will often start with a daily protocol. So these kids will get adjusted every day, maybe Monday through Friday. Our clinic is open 6 days a week, so Monday through Saturday. And they'll need a higher dose, not my favorite word to describe this stuff because we're helping kids without drugs through neurologically-focused chiropractic, but it is transformative already within these first 2 to 4 weeks of doing this daily care because we start to see them already sleep better, digest better, move better, handle their sensory challenges and transitions better. So in this early stage of care, we're going to start to see the scans get better and nervous system function return, but we're also going to see what we call neurological soft signs improve. And if you want to learn more about the ins and outs of autism recovery and healing, there's only so much I can go through in this time frame on this episode, but I'm going to have the team link all of our different autism-specific episodes into the show notes on this one. And I want you to know all about the neurological soft signs. Because for a child with level 2 autism, it can take up to 8 to 12 months, let's call it a year. And sometimes, because there's even a spectrum within level 2, right? There's a scale within level 2. So if they're more severe, kind of tipping towards level 3, which we'll cover next, it can take a year, sometimes more, to get this full transformation, optimal results, recovery, and vastly improved quality of life. But the cool thing about that is it doesn't take that long to see any changes. There's this reorganization and healing process that happens where the changes kick in over time on a specific sequence. And what actually heals first is the nervous system from the inside out. So we activate the vagus nerve, we reduce the tension on the sympathetic system with our adjustments. It's very unique within chiropractic, very unique within all of healthcare, okay? And you start to see these neurological soft signs. Your kiddo sleeps better, falls asleep easier, stays asleep longer, gets better sleep, wakes up more rested, more connected, more regulated. They move their body better. So we really, as chiropractors, really potently improve motor planning, tone. We address the low tone issues because it's usually coming from hypertonia. There's actually tension stuck in the system causing the low tone in the first place. We'll link an episode where I went into a deep dive about low motor tone, if that's your family. So it takes 8 months, 12 months, sometimes longer to see the full care plan with chiropractic care do its thing for level 2 autism. But goodness gracious, when we do, it is the reason that we say experience miracles. And we're not done experiencing miracles because level 3 autism is rough and it's tough and it's as deeply locked in severe nervous system dysfunction, dysregulation, subluxation, and dysautonomia, and vagus nerve shut down, shut off dysfunction ever. So what does it look like on the outside? Often they're completely nonverbal and minimally communicative at best, with significant daily support needs. And you know what? When you really serve these incredible families, these warrior level 3 autism families, daily's not the right word. Hourly, minutely, these kids struggle severely with sensory, stimming, self-stimulatory behaviors, rocking, flapping, hitting themselves, hitting their heads, harming others, perhaps if they get overwhelmed. And so it's extremely withdrawing for the child and the whole family socially. I have it here in my notes, extremely poor vagus nerve function, their sympathetic dominance, their perfect storm, their birth trauma, their maternal stress, and their vaccine injuries and medical interventions were so bad that they literally got steamrolled neurologically, and the sympathetic dominance, fight or flight, sensory overdrive runs the show, and they don't have any vagal nerve regulatory capacity. They can't get themselves out of these episodes, because that's the job of the vagus nerve, is to calm the sympathetic storm. So these kids are literally living every minute of their lives, physically, sensory, digestive system, an absolute mess, okay? Compaction, constipation, dysbiosis, bloating, and these are kids, you can put them on a perfect diet, add tons of supplements, detoxes, and binders, and they don't do a damn thing. Sorry, swore on this one, because these kids neurologically are so locked in. Their immune systems are stuck in neuroinflammation. So you're trying to detox and get the heavy metals out and get the strep out. I've seen every GI map on level 3 autism. I could send the kit in. I could tell you what it's coming back with. And I can tell you that the supplements and the diet changes and the binders aren't going to get in and get anything out and reset and change anything if we don't get neurologically focused chiropractic care, vagus nerve stimulating, sympathetic stuck tension releasing adjustments into this kid, often for weeks, if not months, to then set the stage for other interventions like functional nutrition, biomedical intervention, detoxes, hyperbaric oxygen, OT, PT, speech, and even anything to get in and help these kids, because they're so neurologically stuck in fight or flight. And I don't even have words to really describe to you how stuck they are. They have no HRV. Their nervous systems are absolutely exhausted. No resilience, no adaptability. They are stuck in fight or flight. And the case histories all read the same. Birth trauma. I shouldn't say the word all. That goes against my premise. The majority, the vast majority of level 3 autism, pregnancy and fertility journey was high stress. Lots happening. Birth trauma, forceps, vacuum, cord wrapped, emergency C-section, induction. We see with level 3 autism, we see some physical brainstem spinal injury to the vagus nerve and the cerebellum. We see it in 95% of cases, which means there is 5% of cases. There's NICU stays, there's overuse of antibiotics, there's tons of reactions to vaccines that have happened on this and medical interventions. And then sometimes there's other things that contribute, like certain injuries or viruses, bacteria, things that they battled. And you know what? Level 3 autism often comes saddled with another true genetic diagnosis. But the autism, the neurophysiological challenges aren't only coming from the genetic challenges. They can be coming from the perfect storm triggers themselves, which means even if your child has a severe autism diagnosis, in actual literal conjunction with another genetic challenge, they can still get results with these sensory, digestive, sleep, and quality of life challenges. So we can see improvements in their quality of life. And I told you I was going to do this at the very end. I want to teach you a little bit of what we see on scans and how long it takes to help and what help looks like. But I then am going to finish by telling you verbally a couple of our case studies and our absolute true miracle kids who were, keyword past tense, were level 3 autism and aren't. We've had many of our severe level 3 autism kiddos lose their diagnosis altogether, and many more drop down to where they're, and I don't ever want to use the word just, I don't want to contrast against these. I don't want to compare. I just want to provide contrast to where their struggles are to where they're not anymore when they get neurologically focused care and the full complement of healing. Level 3 autism, you may have just heard me say, oh, it's the gut, the bacteria, the microbiome, or the detox, the heavy metals, the vaccine injuries. All that's going to need to be handled, but we have to do things in a specific sequence. And I'm going to link an episode that talks about episode 60, I believe it is, if you've been doing all the therapies and all the interventions for your child with level 3 autism and nothing seems to be taking root, you're probably doing all the right things, but you're missing one thing, foundational nervous system regulation, and then doing things in a specific sequence. And that, more so than just a key that goes into a lock, think of it like a lock that has, 5 little dials on the turn. I should look up exactly what that lock is called, but there's a sequence. There's combination lock. Thank you, Lord. Came to me. Combination lock where you got to go in the right sequence. That's how we get kids to heal, especially level 2 and severe level 3. So what do we see on these kids' scans? Just rampant neuroinflammation, sympathetic dominance, dysregulation throughout every single scan severely. Motor tone and coordination, they are full of tension and hypertonicity. They are full of sensory, proprioceptive, just nociceptive noise. They have low tone, hypotonia, but it's coming again from the high tone, and their HRVs are tanked. So what does it look like to help them from our work? Level 3 autism absolutely, positively needs what's called a perfect storm neuro-intensive care plan. Now, all PX docs out there know about the intensive care plans. Certain offices are at certain levels of experience and honestly, even logistics. We need to adjust these kids twice a day to get their nervous system, to get the vagus nerve back online, to get the sympathetics to chill out, to get the motor planning in a better place, to improve their sleep and their soft signs and their scans. Everything we talk about on here, the more severe the case, the more we've got to fight fire with fire, okay? The more we've got to meet that neurological severe dysregulation and exhaustion with a lot of intervention, high frequency, which again, in this term is kind of like, analogous to dosage with the work we do. And so these kiddos start with 2 times a day for 2 weeks, 4 weeks, sometimes many weeks. They go through intensive protocols where the adjustments are the sole foundational focus. Now, I wanted to sneak this in. I'm already going longer than I wanted to with this one. Intensives also happen in an area called functional neurology or with primitive reflex work, but they are working on retained primitive reflexes, vestibular, visual discoordinations, and motor incoordinations that are all still there because subluxation is there first, because foundational dysautonomia and neurospinal vagus nerve dysfunction and subluxation is there first. So if you have done neurointensives that are 8 hours a day and they involve all sorts of wobble boards and vibration plates and lasers and multiple therapists shining this, moving this, AT&Rs, Moro reflex, all these other sort of things, those approaches clinically, neurologically are barking, as I like to say, down the right tree, because we're going to use a tree analogy to actually get to the roots, but they're working on the trunk at best, okay? They're not actually working on root cause. There's something deeper within the central and autonomic nervous system called subluxation. And these functional neurology clinics and intensive centers are amazing. Biggest hearts, brilliant minds, but they're missing one thing. And I can't tell our community anything other than the truth. It's exactly what God put me here to do. I was a biomedical intervention clinic. I was a functional neurology clinic years ago, before they blew up, before Instagram was even freaking bought by Meta and Zuck, okay? And it was out there. We did all of that. We did the primitive reflex. We did the vestibular. We did the visual. We looked into hyperbaric oxygenation. We ran gut, stool, hair samples and did the detoxification, the chelation, and the binders. Everything that's on the, I'm going to call it market today, that seems intensive and seems root cause and seems like it's diving deeper than anybody else. It's diving so much deeper than traditional medicine and standard neurologists, but there's something deeper, and only neurologically focused, principled, subluxation-based chiropractors can serve a child with level 3 autism, level 2, or any child, honestly, for that matter, at that deepest foundational level, because we're the only ones that really know that's happening and find it with our scans and our exams and focus the initial frequency of the care plan. Because here's the thing, I really want you to listen to episode 60 after this one, if this hit you and you haven't listened to that one yet, because it may seem like for level 3 autism, the number one way to help your child the mostest, the bestest, the fastest, because they're struggling with so much, is to do everything natural, functional, integrative chiropractic all at once. But there's a prioritization. There is really a sequence and a batting order that I cannot talk about enough on our platform and our podcast, because after almost 20 years of clinically serving level 3 autism kiddos and young adults and doing everything, fully trained in it, and not just sitting in the seminars, but I brought it all into my clinic. And I can tell you the truth, the more we do all at once in the initial stages, the more we actually overwhelm and confuse an already overwhelmed, confused, and dysregulated nervous system, which is the root, actual, deepest root, foundational cause of all of the challenges anyways. So the way we really help level 3 autism families is we slow down to speed up and tap into the healing at a level that is just not experienced anywhere else out there. So it goes real slow and real intense in the beginning, lots of visits over a short amount of time, and then we need a lot of time. These care plans, we always start with kind of like 6 to 8 month chunks of care, or what we call phases of care. But if I'm being honest, which I will always be, probably to a very extra degree than you're used to in this work and in this world on this podcast, this is years of care, years of care. And we've had the blessing to provide these intensive adjusting protocols. And then, by the way, once you get the nervous system in a better place, bam, time to detox, time to support with nutrition, time to get to OT, time to get to PT, time to get into speech, time to get more out of these things, okay? We usually don't need lasers and primitive reflex work because those dysfunctions are coming from subluxation. So it's rare that we ever need to work on that stuff. Cranial work, SOT, we do a lot of that as we go along to really get into that part of the distortion. But it's not just chiropractic that gets these kids with level 2 and level 3 out of the storm, but it is that foundationally often only at first that'll get the healing and reorganization moving in the right direction, and then we can layer on and add to the healing case. So takeaway for parents, and let's finish with some absolute miracle stories. Each level of autism is different, and I don't even like talking about the 3 levels. Each child with autism is different. They deserve their own deep dive, personalized, all-in doctor who's not going to just try and blame genetics and stuff down symptoms and say, here you go, parents, hope for the best, but is actually going to dive deep into their nervous system, find whatever level of dysregulation, dysautonomia, subluxation, dysfunction of the vagus nerve that they have, and get that brain and body communicating and connecting again so that it's sleep, digestion, emotions, behavior, speech, communication, inflammation, motor tone and planning, whatever it is that your child struggles with most, guess what? It's all controlled by nervous system function, balance, and regulation. So I know this is the thing that trips people out the most about neurologically focused chiropractic. How can one thing help with so many things at such a degree and such a level and even in severe cases? Because the one thing that God designed our body to be really, really, really based in is nervous system function. The function of the nervous system is to perceive the environment and coordinate the behavior of all other cells. It's an amazing Dr. Bruce Lipton quote. And so the environment is the messiest, toxic, perfect storm, toxic load environment ever. So guess what our kids need now more than ever? Better perception, better coordination, and better nervous system function. So if there's ever been a time where neurologically focused chiropractic is at its greatest need, it's now. And if your child has level 1, level 2, and especially if they have level 3, just to be true, man, do they need it, and they need a lot of it, and they need the best of it, and those are PX doctors. So the best way I can leave you with this one is to tell you that when I met Evan, in my 3rd year of care, my first 3rd year of practice, my first couple of years, the kiddos I got to help were level 1, level 2, young adults with autism. They will struggle with anxiety. A couple of them were actually even having seizures as well, because whole nother probably episode for another day, the seizure and autism clinical correlation. And so I was able to, my first 3 years of practice, all of my patients in the perfect storm sensory spectrum world were older. And those kids, as I've shared, I have those written down here. The Kevins and the Janines and the Shelbys, the Dylans, they are thriving. College graduates, jobs, marriage, amazing. Are they still a little bit sensory? I'm still raging bull. I'm still wound up. Are they still how God made them? Are they still absolutely incredible and unique and quirky in their way? Son of a gun, yes. That's what makes them who they are. But you know what? They're not struggling so much anymore with motor planning issues and sleep challenges and anxiety and gut problems all the time that were absolutely robbing them of their social, emotional well-being because it's all connected together. So level 1, Asperger's, older kiddos got better first. And I've got miracle stories left and right for kids who weren't supposed to leave the home, weren't supposed to go to college, weren't supposed to make it through. And if they did, they would need significant support all along the way. And they're supporting themselves and thriving like crazy, okay? And then I got to start with Evan and Cohen. These are younger kiddos who started in our clinic at age 3, just recently diagnosed with autism, medicine, the classic 35-page neuropsych printout. We don't know what's causing it. We don't know, not much you could do. Hope for the best. Keep going with the therapies. Evan was no words, headbanging, sick all the time, sleep challenges, drunken bull, couldn't walk straight, fell over time, sensory challenges. And now he's thriving. He eventually lost his diagnosis. He's still, sensory, just differently wired kid, lives life his way, but thriving. Cohen, thriving, wouldn't talk to anyone. The most social, outgoing, incredible family ever with Cohen. And Cohen was the opposite of all that. Cohen didn't want to talk to anybody. He didn't want to go anywhere. He didn't want to have friends. He was so challenge. At home, they could see the best of Cohen. But when they took him to school or took him to friends, he just completely withdrew. And I was the first doctor that Cohen ever trusted. And when I got to meet him the first day, he came up and he gave me a hug. I hadn't even adjusted him yet. We hadn't even started getting his nervous system better yet. But he was just in a place of healing and around a person who says, hey man, I see you. I got you. Let's get you better, Cohen. So Cohen and I are lifelong besties. And now it's harder to be besties with Cohen because Cohen now has best friends. Cohen now does sleepovers. Cohen goes to school. He goes to monster truck rallies. Cohen goes to concerts. Cohen goes and lives life full out with his family. And the last one I'll finish with, and these are all on our website, by the way. I'm going to have the team link these stories of hope and miracles at this on these show notes as well. And then there's Ethan, my boy Ethan. Okay, coming from Scotland. And so Ethan came over earlier last year and he did a 6-week intensive. And then he's been under the most incredible continued care. So we're not even quite a year yet with Ethan. And so he was level 3 if there ever was. The first couple of adjustments or visits to the clinic, he didn't want to come inside. He was only wearing a diaper. He would not wear clothes. He did not use the bathroom. He did not communicate. He hit his head. He had outbursts. To list out Ethan's challenges would take another 45 minutes. Every day, this is the storm that this family lived, which is why they came over for an intensive care plan at our practice. And just 1 week, I suppose it's going on 2 weeks now ahead of recording this one, right in Autism Awareness Month, this incredible family took a vacation to the beach and sent us not only the story, but a picture that will live in my heart forever. And I just want you to picture a kiddo who literally couldn't leave the house, couldn't go into offices, couldn't go into restaurants, right? Couldn't come out of diapers and wear clothes. And he was at the beach, walking home from the beach with an ice cream cone with his sister next to him. And they reported that he not only went on vacation and stayed in the hotel, went to the beach. When it was time to leave the beach, he could handle it. He left the beach with his family. When it was time to go to the pool and leave the pool, he handled the transitions. When it was time to go into restaurants and eat and stay calm and stay connected, he handled it. And I'm going to close this one with Ethan's story. Ethan's no longer level 3. If the neuropsych DSM brigade wanted to do their thing, go get him, Tiger. He maybe is still a 2, a 1. I don't know. I talked about him today because I know if I use language that everybody else is using and they've trained you to use, then I can help you best because I can't talk about our neurofunction root cause language in a way that doesn't make sense to you unless I use regular, because we're all trained in this medical world. And so Ethan, maybe if we had to stick into the medical world, he's certainly going down the diagnosis DSM ladder. And you know what the plan is for Ethan? To not have a diagnosis at all, ever. Because what Ethan reminds me to do at the end of this one is to tell you that full FULL recovery is absolutely entirely possible, even for the most severe level 3 kiddos. What helps it happen? Earlier intervention. When we can get to work, the beautiful thing is that Ethan was 5, not 15 or 25, right? So the younger we start, that's called neuroplasticity. I can't teach you anything other than what's true. The younger we start, the bigger the chance we have for full recovery and full potential. And then we got to do things intensively in the beginning, and we've got to do things in the right order. Ethan's family came over having tried every biomedical intervention and therapy, not only in traditional world, but in the holistic, natural, functional, integrative exercises, adrenal support, detoxification, essential oils, you name it. This family, this mom and dad are brilliant. They are the most heart-centered, courageous, and brilliant parents. And they're tied with thousands of others that I've met that are at that level too. That's my blessing. I know things at this level, not because of me, not because I love reading science textbooks and research. I do. But because of you, parents. You've taught me this. This is coming from you. This is coming from your kiddos. My depth of knowledge, my compassion, my ability to articulate and understand this, and our PX Docs community and tribe of doctors' ability to serve your kiddos and your families at this level. It didn't come from our schooling. It didn't come from our okay, well, for other doctors, it maybe came from the certification program that I teach them. But you get what I'm saying. I'm trying to be sarcastic because I'm getting a little bit emotional to close this one off. It came from Evan. And it came from Julie, his mom, and Jeff, his dad. And so it comes from your kids, and it comes from you, parents, never giving up hope, never stopping the fight, and never stopping searching for answers. Foundational, real, deep root cause answers. I was only able to find them and continue to find even more of them because I only care about one thing. You and your kiddo. I don't care about whether they're diagnosed with this one or that one. I don't care whether this mom on Instagram has this take about autism or this provider on Instagram has this take on autism or this news station says this is true or that political party says that is true. There's not a damn thing political about this. This is our absolute given and called by God calling to get this message and get this work out into your world. Because your child is your whole world. You don't need to worry a single thing about what anybody else is saying about autism. Its level, its severity, what's causing it. Focus fully. And you do this anyways. I'm just giving you one more vote of confidence. Pour everything you've got into your whole world. Your child. I did that when Oliver was sick. When Oliver was in the NICU, and they told us the best chance we had was cerebral palsy, epilepsy, autism, and that he'd never walk and he'd never talk and he'd never neurologically be okay. I didn't listen to a damn thing they said. I listened to everything God put in my heart and my head. And with full sheer willpower, stubbornness, at just never letting that flame on my hope and Christina's hope, my beautiful wife, my courageous wife, we never let that hope go out. And we chased it, we pursued it, we stayed after it. We found, a little bit before podcasts and Instagram back in that day, but we found the answers through neurologically-focused chiropractic and functional, holistic healing entirely. And it was a lot of work and a lot of repetition. And it changed everything for our family. So I don't really know how to finish this one up other than saying, if you need more resources on this, if you're catching this live right upon release or shortly after, the Autism Summit is coming. All the links will be posted with the show notes on this one. And if you watch it later on, we'll update the show notes. If you end up listening to this one later on, we'll update the show notes so you can get the replays. We'll link all the other Experience Miracles autism episodes and things in there to dive deep into things that I mentioned on this. And it may feel like I went deep, but I bet you there's more deep that you want to know. And so we have episodes about that. And then we have all sorts of information on Facebook and Instagram. So you can find PX Docs on Instagram and on Facebook. And then if you love to read and you really want to get into the research citations and the science and the studies, we can go to our website, www.pxdocs.com, and you can find the articles there too. And the last most important action, if you haven't taken it yet, is also on that website. Right smack on the homepage as soon as you get there. You can put in your city and your zip code or even your region in your country, and you can find a PX Doc. And if we don't have one yet, you better believe we're taking this message to the world of chiropractors as well and training as many of them. So if you're a chiropractor listening, get on that summit, get in our training, get to our certification program, and step up alongside of us to serve all of these autism families. Y'all, I love you. I love this calling and I love this work and I love your kids, and I see nothing but full, thriving, recovery, healing potential in their lives. and we'll never stop fighting for them. And I know you won't as well. Love you.